So before we move on to our next chapter, first let's do a quick question from your previous topic that we have discussed in absorption costing. So in absorption costing, we did a small correction. I mean, we did a small question yesterday, an example question. We'll do another textbook question just for your understanding purpose, so that you can feel a little bit more comfortable with this particular over absorption and under absorption topic. So yesterday we discussed that first, based on the budgeted volume and budgeted fixed overheads, we calculate something called as a budgeted overhead absorption rate, right? So after calculating a budgeted overhead absorption rate, for every unit that is produced, we absorb the fixed overheads based on the OAR. We charge the fixed overheads to the cost of production based on the overhead absorption rate that we have previously calculated. And later we'll compare it with the actual overheads incurred, actual fixed overheads incurred, to figure out if there is any over absorption or under absorption. So in the yesterday's question, okay, so in the yesterday's question, I have told you that in the example, we took budgeted fixed overheads and the actual fixed overheads to be the same. Okay, it's not always the same. The actual cost will be slightly different from the budgeted cost, correct? So let me just very quickly go to that. Yeah, here. So here, what did we do? I assumed that actual and budgeted are the same in this particular question. But usually you'll have to know the difference between actual cost and fixed budgeted cost. So if there are differences between actual and budgeted, that is also over absorption or under absorption, right? So look at this particular question. Yes, ma. I told you now. I'm assuming that both are the same thing. Okay. One more student. Yes, I think she just texted me. Let me confirm. Okay. In the meanwhile, go through this particular question once. Look at this particular illustration, ma. Company is budgeted to produce 3,000 units. I will attend today's class. Same link. Join now. Oh, and another student wants to join, it seems. Okay, let me share the link with them. Okay, so we are planning to produce 3,000 units, and for this 3,000 units, direct costs are $17 per unit and fixed overheads are $9 per unit. So 9 into 3,000, we are expecting a budgeted fixed overheads of 27,000, right? We are expecting a budgeted cost of 27,000, and in the period covered by the budget, actual production was 3,200 units. Okay, sir, we budgeted for 3,000 units, $27,000, but actually produced 3,200. So what will be the absorbed overheads? 3,200 units we produced. So every time we produce a unit, we will absorb $9. So 3,200 into $9, 3,200 into 9, 27,000 plus 1,800, 28,800, right? 28,800 is the absorbed fixed overheads, and they are telling you that actual fixed overhead expenditure was 5% above the budgeted. We budgeted 27,000, so that would be 1,350. Yeah, 27,000 plus 1,350, 28,350. So 28,800 was the absorbed FOH, whereas 28,350 is the actual FOH. So 28,800, 28,350, 450 is the overhead over absorption. So that should be credited to the company's costing P&L. Correct? Look at this. Budget FOH 3,000 into $9, 27,000. Then fixed overheads absorbed are 3,200 units into $9 each, 28,800. Incurred fixed overheads are 5% above the budgeted FOH of 27. 27 into 1.05, 28,350. So 450 is the over absorption. So this over absorption is good for the company. See, you have spent 28,350, but you absorbed 28,800. So 450 you absorbed extra, which needs to be reversed, which needs to be credited back to the P&L. See, during the period, overheads was accounted for as and when the units are made. Thus, by the end of the period, 28,800 will have been incorporated into the cost P&L, and if they are already sold, it will be in the cost of goods sold. If they are in the closing stock, it will be in the inventory valuation. That is what these 2 points are. Then at the end of the period, the company determines actual cost is only 28,350. So we charged 450 surplus. This amount has to be credited back to the profit and loss, right? This is the topic that we have discussed yesterday. Is it clear, everybody? Over absorption and under absorption concepts. Absorption costing. Yes, good. Chalo. Then we'll move on to the second chapter of discussion, and not the second chapter of your textbook. I'm not talking about the second chapter of your textbook, ma. Because we are in the flow of marginal costing, then absorption costing. It would make more sense for us to do the special costing techniques as well here itself. So let's go to chapter number 4 of your textbook. That is special cost and management accounting techniques. Yes. Specialist coster. It's special cost and management accounting techniques. Okay. So here in this particular technique, we are going to discuss about this 5 different types of accounting terminologies and accounting techniques. Out of which ABC is going to take a good amount of time, let's say half an hour. Throughput accounting is going to take another 20 minutes, target 10 minutes, life cycle 10 minutes, environment 10 minutes. These 3 are 10 minutes topics. ABC and throughput are going to take a little bit more time. Okay. So keep that in mind. Let's start with ABC. Now, what exactly is this ABC all about, sir? Topic number 4, right? This is. Okay. Now, so before we move on to ABC, first let me very quickly recap. What was marginal costing doing? Marginal costing was only considering the variable costs as the production cost. Important variable costs are only considered for the product cost. Under marginal costing, fixed costs are considered as a period cost. They are not included in the cost per unit calculation. But under absorption costing, we are going to take production costs, not just variable cost, but the entire production costs. And under absorption costing, what were we doing? Fixed costs are considered as product cost, not as a period cost. Under product cost, and absorbed. On what basis do we absorb the fixed costs in terms of absorption costing? Either labor hours or machine hours, sometimes also number of units. Very rarely these kind of things happen. Number of units are very rarely done, but mostly we go with the labor hours or the machine hours when we are talking about the absorption under absorption costing. Fixed overheads absorbed under absorption costing. Then, but now let me ask you some fixed costs. Rent, is it a fixed cost? Step fixed cost, sir, that's a different story. That's fine. Pardon me. If I am assuming that my activity levels are within the limits of the fixed cost, then rent is a fixed cost. Does rent have anything to do with machine hours or labor hours? Does rent has anything to do with machine hours or labor hours? Nothing? No, sir. Okay. See, when rent has nothing to do with number of machine hours or number of labor hours, then why do we need to absorb it on the basis of machine hours or labor hours? Number of machine hours used by product X, number of machine hours used by product Y. How does it make sense to absorb the fixed overheads on the basis of machine hours or labor hours for something like rent, which has nothing to do with those two aspects? Rent is supposed to be allocated on the basis of maybe something like space occupied by the respective production processes. So if I am incurring a rent of $20,000 and I'm producing 2 units, product X and product Y, how do you think I should absorb this 20,000 or allocate this 20,000 to X and Y? Should it be on the basis of machine hours, labor hours? It has nothing to do with rent. Rather, I would be allocating this 20,000 on the basis of space, floor space occupied by that particular production process. So total factory is say 2,000 square feet. SFT. It won't be that small. Don't look at me like that. Or else 20,000 SFT, sir. Yeah, that would be appropriate. 20,000 SFT is the total floor space, out of which X is occupying 8,000 SFT and Y is occupying 12,000 SFT, for example. Now it makes sense for me to allocate the rent of 20,000 on the basis of 8 is to 12 or 2 is to 3, whatever it is, $8,000 and $12,000. You're able to understand this? Or else if I make it 40,000 SFT here and make this 16,000 and this would become 24,000. Okay. So 16 and 24, 40. So I will allocate in this particular ratio 3 is to 4, 2 is to 3, 2 is to 3 ratio. So 8,000 and 12,000. Okay. So this is what activity based costing does, ma. So under ABC, what we understand is that the fixed overheads are not really a single number. It's a combination of different types of fixed costs. Okay, there are different types of fixed costs. We call them as cost pools. Okay, fixed cost pools. There are different cost pools. That is what we understand in ABC. Not all the fixed costs behave same. They are all dependent upon different factors, and these fixed cost pools are dependent upon different factors that influence the cost per unit calculation or the absorption rates. So that is what those are called as your cost drivers. What are they called? Cost drivers, ma. So in this particular example, rent is what? Rent is the fixed cost pool. Space occupied is the cost driver. So the rent is driven by the space that is occupied by that particular product. Similarly, if I'm talking about say maintenance cost, so number of maintenance what do you call it, activities conducted, I can say, maybe, or else inspections conducted, number of inspections conducted for that particular product. Or else if I'm talking about machine setup, number of setups that are done for each of this particular product. Similarly, if I'm talking about something like marketing cost, okay, advertisement cost, number of hours of advertisement spent on each of the product, that could be a basis of absorption, right? So like this, we can allocate the total fixed cost to the respective units based upon the respective cost drivers. Am I making sense, guys? Are you able to follow me? Everybody confirm, are you able to follow me? Yes? Okay. So under absorption costing, there was only one cost driver, either labor hours or machine hours. But under ABC costing, what we do is we identify different cost pools. For each cost pool, different cost driver will be there. For each cost driver, different overhead absorption rate will be there. Okay. It may be $1,000 per SFT, $2,000 per SFT, $500 per SFT. That is overhead absorption rate for rent, for space occupied cost driver. Similarly, per setup, $1,000, that could be a different overhead absorption rate. Per kilometer, this much is the overhead absorption rate. So you'll have different overhead absorption rates for each fixed cost pool. Okay, for each cost driver, different absorption rate will be there under activity based costing. That's the only difference, sir. Then again, the same concept of over absorption or under absorption is there in case of your ABC as well, but that won't be tested for you in the exam. Sir, here also based on budgeted fixed overheads, budgeted activity drivers, cost drivers, budgeted activity levels only, we do the overhead absorption rate, and then we have to compare it with the actual to find out whether there is over absorption or under absorption. Okay, it is always there, ma. Over absorption, under absorption concept is always there, whether it is ABC or absorption costing. But under ABC, you are not tested the over absorption or under absorption concept because already too much work is there for ABC. You have to first list out the fixed cost, then you have to list out the cost drivers, then the overhead absorption rate, then the absorption for both the units. Already too many steps are there, so they don't usually test you in the ABC for the over absorption and under absorption concept. Okay. Chalo, with that being said, shall we start with the discussion? So ABC, why is ABC introduced, sir? Over and above the absorption costing, why is it introduced? Because activity level in the overhead absorption calculation, it's either units, labor hours, or mission hours. If I'm talking about the absorption costing, even units are very less times taken. Absorption will go with labor or mission hours most of the time, but I told you it can be on the basis of units as well, right? Now there are so much of increases in the levels of production due to automation, or else globalization. It basically, the production processes has become so much mission intensive and so much process centric rather than people centric. Previously our entire business used to be people centric. Now it is all process centric. We don't care if people are happy, not happy, working, not working, they're safe and healthy, not safe and healthy. We don't care about the people in our organization. It's more about, is the process going right or wrong? Okay, who is doing that, we don't care, but as is the process going on or not? That's how it became, that's how it evolved, right? Unfortunate or fortunate, we can't justify everything. Okay, now anyways, moving further, overheads used to be in a small in relation to other costs in the traditional manufacturing. So previously, in the good olden days, na machinery depreciation, all these things used to be very less. That's how I started my discussion. Marginal costing, absorption costing, and ABC, it goes because of the changes in the way the business is being done. Previously it used to be machinery, material and labor alone, marginal costing was fine. Then machinery started being used, absorption costing came into picture. Lots of fixed overheads, different types of fixed overheads, complicated processes came into the picture. So activity based costing has to come. You have to be more appropriate, you have to be more accurate while calculating the cost per unit. I cannot absorb the entire fixed overheads to different products on the basis of one factor. I need multiple cost drivers to accurately calculate the cost per unit, right? Next one. Yeah, that's what. Overheads are now a large proportion of the total cost in the modern manufacturing. Diversity has increased. We are producing different types of products. Complexity is increasing. So comparatively, all because of all these reasons, we would need different types of costing techniques which are much more appropriate to the current market scenario rather than the old techniques. Okay, so first what we'll do, we'll identify the cost pools. For overhead allocation under ABC costing, we establish separate cost pools for different activities. Like rent is a separate cost pool, marketing is a separate cost pool, similarly your maintenance cost is a separate cost pool, your machinery setup cost, inspection cost, all of these are considered as different cost pools. Okay, then for each activity cost pool, you will identify the cost drivers, and for each cost driver you'll calculate an overhead absorption rate, and based on that you absorb the fixed overheads, each fixed overhead, each cost pool on the basis of the actual production levels, and then over absorption or under absorption concept comes into the place. See, five steps are, yeah, five basic steps in the cost per unit calculation of ABC. First, group the overheads into activities. Then for each activity is called as a cost pool. For each cost pool, there should be a cost driver. Then for each cost driver, identify the, okay, identify the cost driver is the step two. Calculate the cost driver rate, that is the overhead absorption rate. Then absorb the activity into the product and then calculate the full product cost on the profit and loss. Same five steps basically. Okay, we can do this question or we can do another question. That doesn't make much of a difference to me. Chalo, it's 10:20 and we have another 10 minutes. So very quickly what I'll do is I'll explain this question, the answer for which is given in the five-step approach, but that's not a big deal. Whether it is given or not, it doesn't make much difference. Look at this. In addition to the data from illustration 1 from chapter number 1, some supplementary data is now available. Okay, should I go back and do it again? Okay, no. Acha, in chapter number 1, illustration number 1, they gave you these costs, material cost and labor cost. And now we are given the breakup for the total overheads. Total production overheads breakup is being given. 80,000 is given here. And this 80,000 under absorption costing, what we'll do, we'll take this entire 80,000 and absorb to sky, moon, and sun. These are the three products. We'll absorb to these 3 units on the basis of the mission hours or the labor hours. They give you, see, mission hours per unit is given here. Labor hours is not given. So under absorption costing, I'll do it on the basis of mission hours consumed by this particular thing. Actual units are given now 500,000 into 0.01, 150,000 into 0.04, 250,000 into 0.02. I'll get the machine hours. Then on that particular, in that ratio, what I'll do, I'll split this 80,000 and allocate to all these three products. But under absorption costing, see, this 80,000, the overheads are broken down into 4 different overheads here. Machine costs are 5,000. So machine cost we can allocate on the basis of number of machine hours. Component costs, number of components used. Setup cost, number of setups required. Packing cost, number of packings or number of orders. For each order you have to do a separate packing. So packing cost will be depending upon the number of orders. So like this, they have given you all the different cost drivers. You can see here, mission hours per unit, number of production setups conducted, number of components consumed, number of orders received for each product. So in this ratios, what I'll do is I'll split the respective overhead amounts. See, if I'm doing for setup cost 30,000, what are the total number of setups? Production setups. See here, number of production setups 3, 1, and 26. Are you kidding me? 3 plus 1, 4, 4 plus 26, 30. So this 30,000 has to be allocated in this 3:1:26 ratio. 3,000 for sky bar, 1,000 for moon egg, and 26,000 for sun bar. Sir, am I making sense? Guys, please confirm, are you able to follow, or is there any ambiguity in this calculations? Understood? Nice. Okay. Here you have two products, plus and double plus. Cabell makes and sells two products. Direct cost of production is $12 for 1 unit of plus, $24 for 1 unit of double plus. Okay, good. You're producing equal number of units of plus and double plus. Direct labor hours are 1 and 1.5. Number of orders 10, 140. So look at this. Here itself you can understand that how much variance is there in the absorption between absorption costing and ABC. If I'm going with absorption, I'll not even look at these differences. Look at 10 versus 140. Look at 12 versus 240. These are not even comparable. But what I'll do under absorption, mission hours or labor hours, entire thing I'll absorb. These things will not be more accurate. These things will be more accurately absorbed if I'm going with ABC rather than absorption costing. Number of batches, number of setups, number of special parts. Now, please be careful here. Number of batches are given. Number of setups per batch is given. So you'll have to multiply number of batches into per batch setups to get the total number of setups. See, setup cost is there. This has to be on the basis of number of setups. So you'll have to multiply 12 into 1 and 240 into 3 here to get the total number of setups. This is setups per each batch. Multiply by number of batches you should do. Okay, so setup cost is 73,200. So what I'll do, first calculate the number of setups. 12 into 1, that is 12 setups, and here 240 into 3, 720. So 720 plus 12, 732 setups are there total. 732 divided by 732, that is $100 for each setup. So what I'll do, I'll multiply by 12 here and I'll multiply by 732 here. 732 only? Yeah, 720 here. 12 here, 720 here, like that. Is it making sense now? Easy to calculate, right? Advantages and disadvantages, how it is used in public sector. This is all blah, blah, blah nonsense. I don't need to go through all of that theoretical part of it. You guys can just quickly go through them. Advantages and disadvantages, I'll very quickly go through very fastly. So it gives you more accurate cost per unit. But the problem is, if you need more accurate, you need more information. Look at the disadvantages. You'll need more information, and see, it will become more complex to explain. Okay, next one. It provides much better insight into what drives the overhead cost, how much, what are the different cost drivers, what are the different overhead absorption rates, everything. You can get more accurate information and more clear information. It recognizes that overhead costs are not related to the production cost or sales volume or the labor hours or machine hours. All of them requires different cost drivers. And in many businesses, overhead costs are significant proportion, thereby better allocating it to each unit makes more sense. It can be applied to derive realistic costs in complex businesses as well. ABC can be applied to all overhead costs, not just the production overheads. Even non-production overheads also can be allocated on the basis of ABC technique. ABC can be used just as easily in service costing as in the case of product costing. Even in service sector also you can use ABC. That's what they're trying to tell you. In case of disadvantages, ABC will be of limited benefit if the overhead costs are primarily volume related, or if the overheads are very small in proportion to the overall cost. Sir, we already know this factor, right? We already know this fact. ABC works only when you have so much of so much of overheads, which are different nature, and all of them have different absorption rates or cost drivers. If all of them are dependent upon labor hours or mission hours, ABC and absorption costing both will give you very close answers. So you don't need to do too much of work if majority of your components are depending upon the volume or labor hours or machine hours. Go with absorption costing. It is impossible to allocate all overhead costs to specific activities. Now this is important, sir. This is very important now. Sir, is it always possible for us to find the cost driver and overhead absorption rate? Sometimes, sometimes a similar overhead can have multiple cost drivers. I'll ask you, transportation cost is there, sir? Or else we have taken a vehicle on rent for delivering the commodities, delivering the products. Now, the vehicle rent, how should I absorb it to the different units? On the basis of distance traveled, on the basis of number of orders received, or on the basis of sales volume? How shall I allocate this distance rent of the vehicle? On what basis can I allocate? Anything can make sense. See, distance travel makes sense, right? Or else number of orders of product X, number of orders of product Y delivered makes sense. Volume or size of product X versus size of product Y makes sense, right? Lots of possibilities are there when I'm talking about certain overheads. So what suits your organization better, your particular activity better, needs to be determined. There is a judgment involved. Okay. See, choice of activities and cost drivers might be inappropriate. You may choose a wrong cost driver sometimes. ABC is more complex, and benefits obtained for ABC might not justify the costs. So sometimes in order to do ABC, you need so much of information. First, you need to gather information relating to your cost pools. What are the different cost pools? Identify different cost drivers. Observe and calculate the overhead absorption rate. Absorb that fixed overheads to the respective units based on the absorption rates, then compare with the actuals, then figure out the over absorption and under absorption. It's a lot of lengthy process. The benefit might not be as much as the cost that you are incurring, or the time that you are spending. You might not get that much return or benefit from that particular calculations or the activities. Okay, that, my dear friends, is ABC. Now, before we move on to throughput, let me just scroll down and take you through a small costing technique. Okay, life cycle costing. First, we'll do life cycle costing, then we'll go back to throughput now, because we still have some 8 minutes, which is sufficient for life cycle costing. Okay, let me ask you something, sir. Do you guys know the product life cycle? How the product life cycle works? Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Development, introduction, growth, maturity, and decline. Very good, Tejasvi. You have given me the 5 stages as well. Okay. So let me just finish the steps, then I'll move on to the next one. Cost just calculating OR, absorb overheads based on OR. Okay. Calculate total cost per unit. Okay. Now, sir, we all know the product life cycle, right? At least stages of life cycle. So some of you know, some of you may know the entire explanation as well, but let me explain it in my style. Ma. So first of all, if I'm taking the dollar revenue on the y-axis and the stages on the x-axis, okay, dollar revenue, sir, or I can say profits. Okay. So first of all, there is a research and development phase, which is before the product originates, before the production starts. So your product life always starts at a research and development phase, which is a phase where you have a negative profits. You spend a lot of amount, but you don't get any returns. And after that, you introduce your product into the market. You usually have a very good growth. Initial phases, you have a very good growth, faster what do you call it, faster operations will be there, faster customer retentions will be there. But as you move further, slowly competition increases and your growth starts to slope a little bit more, and after a point you'll reach your maturity phase, and then your product starts the declining phase. See, if I'm talking about Apple products, first there is a lot of research and development involved in that. R&D phase will be there for each product that they release, for each version of Apple mobile that they release. There's a lot of research and development. Then they introduce that into the market. What happens the moment they introduce the product into the market? People will stand in huge lines to purchase that mobile phone. The sales in the initial first 1 week, 10 days, 15 days is very high. But what happens after a point of time? After that, everybody who are really interested, they all purchased the latest Apple phone. Then what will happen? The growth will slowly slow down, but there is still growth, sir. Still people purchase, but the volume or the capacity slowly start growing slowly at an inclined pace. And then you will reach a maturity point, like nobody are interested to purchase that outdated version of the mobile anymore. Then what will happen, sir? You will slowly come into the decline phase. At the decline phase is where the next product's life starts. Correct? Decline is the phase where the next product's life cycle starts, ma. Okay, sir, they have given profits and sales on the same graph. It's fine, whatever you want to do it. It's absolutely fine. It should be dollar profit, not revenue. You won't have negative revenues. You can only have negative profits, which are called losses. Okay. So initially you'll have losses at the research and development phase. Then slowly you'll start gaining profits, and then your profits also start declining after a point of time in the future. Now, please understand, under all our traditional costing techniques, call it marginal costing, absorption costing, ABC costing, any type of costing that we are doing, we are taking material cost, labor cost, production cost, variable overheads, fixed overheads. All these costs are incurred. All these costs are incurred during the production phases, right? During these phases only we incur this material, labor, and all that cost. But if you understand really, sir, mostly 80% of a total cost of a product is incurred at the phases of research and development only, isn't it? Majority of the cost we incur during research and development only. Once a product is finalized, it doesn't make much cost for us to produce that. What about the huge amount of research and development cost that we have incurred before the production? How do we recover that? How does business recover that? If my cost of production, material plus labor plus variable overheads plus fixed cost absorbed, is $20, fine, I'll sell it for 25, I'll make $5 profit. How many units should I sell to recover my research and development that I have spent like $1 million? When will I recover that? Right? It's a question. That is the biggest problem with the normal recover from raising funds. Sir, funds raise करने से पैसे recover नहीं होता. You owe that money again ना. You have to give it back to those people. ऐसे नहीं कि थोड़ी फ्री में देते थोड़ी. Wow, that's taken as deferred expenditure and written off every year. Ma, you are talking about accounting. Fine, accounting is fine. Writing off of capital expenditure on a periodical basis, absolutely fine. I'm not worried about that. I'm asking about costing. Don't mix accounting with costing, ma. Performance management. After earning profits, we will return. किसको वापस करते बेटा? कहां से वापस करते? Profit कहां से आता है? This is the problem, sir. See, research and development I started incurring before the production started. मेरे cost per unit कैसे calculate कर रहा हूं मैं? I'm calculating cost per unit on the basis of material, labor, variable overheads, fixed overheads. ठीक है, बराबर. Who will recover the research and development cost? उसको भी include करना है ना cost per unit के अंदर. तभी तो recover होगा, तभी तुम customer से collect करते हैं. Then only you will be able to recollect that ना. Unless you include the research and development cost in the cost per unit calculation, you will not fix the selling price properly. Right? I'm not asking you from where you will get the money for research and development. Research and development money you will get from raising funds, and then you will pay them back after you get profits. But to earn profits, you should recover this research and development cost from your regular production sales. So if you fix a sales price without including research and development, you will run into losses. You will not be able to recover the research and development expenditure. So whatever cost per unit we are calculating, we have to include research and development cost also. Okay, so that is where our regular marginal absorption ABC costing fails. All of this fail to understand that research and development also needs to be included in the regular cost per unit calculation. That is where life cycle costing comes into the picture. Life cycle costing includes research and development expenditure while calculating cost per unit. Okay, so in the next video we'll discuss about life cycle costing in detail.